Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another broadcast of Northwest Georgia Cryptics. As always, I'm Rick Weaver, your host. I'm joined tonight, as always, by Mr. Blake Duckworth. Blake, you want to open the show, bud?
How's everyone doing? As always, guys, as I say every week, if you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button, bell notification, like, and a comment. And we can't thank you guys enough for your support. Um, Something we kind of want to talk about this week. So basically, I don't know if you are part of our Facebook group. They were a trail cam photo that was sent to us. That was supposedly took close to our area, a place that me and Ricky research. Didn't really think much about it at first. It's a very compelling photo, especially the subject in the photo. And far as we know, the photo is real. Or it's it hasn't been far as a hoax photo that we don't know for sure. But the guy that we come about this photo about kind of hoaxed us, I guess you would say. Um, so supposedly this photo come from, like I said, we were told here last Thursday at 2:00. Um, when we received the photo, we were more focused on the actual what's in the photo, not surroundings, not actual details of the time of year, so forth. So the photo actually come from North Carolina in January of 2019, come to find out. So, like I said, we were more focused on the actual, the Bigfoot in the photo. A couple things were pointed out. We posted on our Facebook page, just kind of get viewer suggestions and everything. And Ricky sent it to somebody that kind of analyzes photos to whatnot. And first thing was brought up was no timestamp. It was supposedly caught from a trail cam. There's no timestamp in the photo, which that's beside the point. Another thing that we first noted before we found out that this guy that we received the photo from, not the guy that received the photo from, let's back up a little bit, not the guy that received the photo from, but his friend had sent it to him. And basically it ended up, he was trying to, trick him pretty much, whatnot. But two, I got, after the fact of we got the photo and the timestamp thing was brought up, got to noticing that there were a lot of leaves on the ground for this time of year. Then there are no leaves on the trees, and that's when we kind of put two things together. And then that's when we found out that it was not, from the area here. Basically, why we're bringing this up is, it just shows you the dishonesty when it comes to evidence. That's the reason, a lot of times I take things with a grain of salt when I see a photo or whatever, just because you never know. Yes, the photo is supposedly real, but the fact of the story we was told was not true. So just, be careful when you see evidence. It's unfortunately, this is something that makes so many people non-believers when it comes to the subject because they are dishonest people. And it's just a shame that somebody would do that. It's kind of, we didn't think about it. The person that we received the photo from, good guy. Never would question his whatever, but just shows you how easy it is to manipulate. And he's just now recently got into it. I've gotten him kind of interested in the subject and everything. So, and in this place being super close to where we live, like I said, we've done some research in there. So it was very compelling to us to see this photo. And he didn't know. So, he just passed the photo on to us. And basically it just, I don't want it to make us look bad because we were just sharing the evidence that was supposedly captured, pretty much.
And folks, that goes as Blake said. We apologize for any misconception at all on this photo. we were told, that it came from the area where we were doing where we do our research at. We were even planning on doing a big deal up there this weekend because of the photo. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize wholeheartedly. Blake does. We're not about hoaxing on this show. Not at all. We don't.
And
If
we
it's not,
figured it out. No, that's the
yeah,
thing. We after Ricky had posted the photo, we figured all this out within a day of the photo being actually posted, and we figured it out with a little research and a little digging. The guy that actually gave us the photo was the one that found where the original photo had came from, because I'd pointed out to him that the timestamp thing, the leaves and everything, and that's when he got to doing a little digging, and then he sends me this news article from North Carolina and blah 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 blah. So, it makes you mad.
most definitely. I mean, I hate to look bad over something that we really had no control of, but I will tell everyone from now on, before I post anything, we're going to know exactly where it came from, uh, the area it came from, the time the photos were taken or whatever, even if it be tracks that were taken, whatever. We're going to do further research to verify what we post. Uh, but anyway, tonight,
And,
go ahead,
and
Blake.
like we have seen photos from this area, so that that's one thing that made it so compelling to us, because back about 3 or 4 months ago, we were showing a trail cam photo with me and Ricky had broke down in the area, which we've talked about the story before on here, and a guy, just a random person that we'd come across that takes care of the old Boy Scout and Girl Scout camp over there, the land over there. I mean, we had seen some trail cam photos that he had captured, and I mean, it just, everything we knew about the area and everything, it was very compelling. Unfortunately, it didn't come from the area, which is because it had me excited.
Right, very much so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have Mr. Nathan Edmonson. Nathan and his cousin had a encounter with Sasquatch back in 2018 in the Chattahoochee National Forest. Edmund's going to come on and share his story with us. So without further ado, let's bring him on. Good evening, Edmund. How are you, buddy?
How's it going, brother?
Pretty good.
All right,
How
Edmund.
you doing?
We're doing great. As Blake said, just go ahead and uh, uh, introduce yourself to the viewers. Tell
Okay.
them who you are and a little about your encounter, buddy.
All right. Yeah, I'm Nathan Edmonson, and me and a cousin of mine were we were camping at the and part of the Chattahoochee National Forest. And I'm not going to really disclose the exact location because we still hunt there, and I don't want it covered up with other hunters, because it ain't but a few weeks and it'll be deer season again. So it'll be bow season. But we were camping. We actually got there, the place we were camping, on a Friday evening. We were planning on getting there earlier and doing some scouting. But we got there late because we both had to work. Best I can remember, it's been about 3 years ago, but the best I can remember, we had to work late and we didn't get to spend as much time scouting as we wanted to. So we basically got there, and the place we were going to, the place that we had the encounter, is exactly 2 miles back off the main road, up down this, actually, I guess you would call it up because it's all mountains, up into a cul-de-sac. The road is so narrow that you couldn't pass another car or another truck coming in or out. But at the end of it, there's a cul-de-sac. Well, we had parked I rode with him, so we parked his truck at the end of the cul-de-sac, and we got out and we found us. We were able to do a little bit of scouting before it started getting dark, and we set our ground blinds up on this ridge that looked pretty good. Look, we saw a deer trail coming through there pretty good. So we set our blinds up and had just enough time to get back before it started getting real dark. Back to the truck there where we were going to set our tents up and build us a little campfire. And so we set our tents up and done all that. I won't go into a lot of detail about camping because everybody knows what that's all about. But we did build us a little campfire there, and we were sitting there in our lounge chairs by the campfire talking about, what we might see the next morning and all that, and hadn't been sitting there too awful long and by the fire, and all of a sudden we hear, maybe, I don't know, it's really in the woods like that, it's kind of hard to judge the distance when you hear something like what we heard. But we heard what sounded like a big stick or a baseball bat slap the side of a tree, and it was followed by a sound. Now I've hunted all my life. My dad took me hunting first time when I was 8 years old, and I'm 48 now. So about 40 years ago when I first started hunting, and I've been in the woods a lot in my life, and I've never heard what we heard that night. I'm not gonna say what it was. I'm just gonna say I've never heard anything like it. But after the slap, after the tree, after whatever it was swatted the side of the tree, we heard something that sounded like it went whoa. Is all I know how to describe it. I don't even know how to spell whoa, but that's what it sounded like. It went whoa, and it just done it one time. It slapped the tree one time, and then it done that one time. And I looked at my cousin, and he looked at me, and we were shaking our heads. What in the world was that? Was all, we couldn't either one of us figure out what that sound was. Well, we sit there for probably another maybe 10, 15 minutes, and whatever it was, we didn't hear it move, but whatever it was moved locations, and it proceeded to do the same thing again. We heard it 2 times that night. So we sit around listening for it, hoping we'd hear it again, but we never heard it but just twice. But it done the same thing. It was one swat on the tree and then a woof. And probably from the first time we heard it to the second time we heard it, I'd say sitting in my lounge chair, it seemed like it was maybe at about I'd have to be looking at a clock to see what it. The first time it was probably at about, it was off to my left probably the first time I heard it, and then it had moved off to the right the second time we heard it, like maybe at like a 5 o'clock, and then the next time was like at I don't know, 8 o'clock, whatever's on your right. But we sat there a few more minutes, and before we decided to turn in. I mean, it didn't cross our mind that, what it could be. I didn't think about until later on, after watching some videos and, reading some of the other stories that's on this.
And
then I decided to put my experience down.
Another thing that makes it super compelling, though, is just the area you were in. You're in one of the major hot spots in North Georgia.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like I say, I've never heard. When I figured out, maybe what it could be, what rumors could be, I googled all the sounds that a black bear makes, because there's black bear in there too. Mm-hmm. But the sounds that you hear a black bear make, not one of them is the sound we heard. And I mean, my wife thinks I'm crazy. She thinks we both crazy. But I'm just, all I'm saying is I heard what I heard.
Are you and your cousin planning on hunting the area again this year?
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know if I'll hunt there opening day, but I'm definitely planning on hunting there again. Yeah.
What about while you're hunting up there in that area? Have you come across any strange looking structures or tree breaks or anything of that nature?
Well, that's just it. I hadn't put it together until recently to even look for anything like that.
Well,
We
and that's
just thought
what.
that was awful creepy and weird that we heard what we heard, and well, we both. I loaded my rifle that night. I slept with that thing right by my side, and he did the same thing in his tent. We both slept with our guns loaded that night. I know you ain't supposed to, but we did after hearing that.
Well,
But
so a lot of people don't. That's the thing. Ricky asked about tree structure and stuff like that. I mean, that's not what you're looking for.
no, I didn't think about it. It
You know
it
what I'm
didn't
saying? So I
until
mean,
later on. It didn't dawn on me what it could be, and now it's like they don't a day go by that I don't think about it because I know what really happened.
yeah.
I mean, my wife said that I'm probably making it out something that it ain't, but I'm telling you what I heard was what I heard, and I'd take a polygraph test and tell you what I
And
heard.
I'll tell you from my own experience, after hearing these things in the woods on multiple times, once you've heard one of them, you'll never forget it.
No, you don't, because
No,
it's a
you don't.
sound it's not natural, or well,
It's
I mean, it
not.
might be natural, but it ain't something that you're accustomed to hearing.
Yeah,
Exactly
it's not
right.
supposed to be there. It's not. It's out of the ordinary. It's not what you're
Yeah,
used to hearing when you're in the
right,
woods.
That's right.
right,
It's something that you're told all your life that does not exist. That it's just a figment of people's imaginations. And
yeah,
I'm here to tell you, uh, I kind of used to believe that way until 1981, and the figment of my imagination. I rounded a bend in a creek, and that thing was knelt down at that edge of the water, had its paws down in what I thought was bear paws, because that's what I thought it
yeah,
was when I first saw it was a bear. But when this thing raised up and those two hands come up out of the water, it was two hands twice the size of mine, and
wow,
was covered in hair down to about the middle knuckle on the fingers and kind of long fingernails. And when this thing stood up and kind of threw its head back, winding the air, I reckon trying to figure out where we were at. And we were in
yeah,
a raft in the middle of the creek. But when it actually spotted us, it turned and made two bounds and wood line about 40 yards behind it. And it covered it covered 40 yards in about maybe 2 to 3 bounds, and it was in the woods and gone. And
wow,
so, I know what I saw. I've had encounters with things since then, Blake and I have. And, I'm just here to tell everybody that they do exist. They're not a figment of your imagination. And when you run across one and you realize what's going on, it does, it changes your whole perspective and your whole outlook to what's out there.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, now when I go in there, I'm on the lookout. I mean, I've hunted. I say I don't think I hunted in there in 2019, but I did hunt in there last year. And I mean, I'm on the lookout for anything weird. I mean, I was mostly looking for deer, but I was still had my eye out for tracks, and I'd love to see something like that. I'd love to see it.
Now, now I got a
Just
couple
just so
questions.
I know I wasn't just hearing things. And I mean, when you hear it once, that you might brush it off, but when you hear the exact same thing twice, like we did within 15 minutes, I mean, it's at least 10 to 15 minutes, and then we heard it again. So
Now, had
I know what I heard.
a couple questions. So previous to that happening to you, I mean, what was your? I mean, did you have any opinion on the subject?
Well, it always interested me, but I thought, something like that. You
They're
think
not in your
something like that
backyard.
only exists in the, like in California, Oregon, Northwest Territory, places like that. You really don't. I really never thought nothing like that would exist here. But
Now,
the Chattahoochee National Forest is a big place, and that ain't the only, national forest around.
and there are a
A lot
lot
of
of sightings that
places,
come out of the area.
yeah. I mean, these is thick woods, thick forests, and mountains and stuff where people don't usually go. And like the place where I'm talking about, I think the most traffic I've seen in there is maybe 500s at a time. And most time it was just I hunted a lot in there last year. I worked a job where I was off a lot, and last year I was able to go in there several times by myself. And when I was hunting, but like I said, I wasn't really looking for that.
Yeah.
I still had my eye out because my experience was in 2018. It's still in my
In the back of
mind,
your
fresh.
mind, yeah.
That hey, I could see something, but yeah,
Hey, once you have an encounter with these things, it stays in your mind. I mean, it's something that's always there.
yeah.
It's something
Now,
that'll never leave you.
Now, Rick, when
so
you seen that thing, was that in Georgia?
Yeah, that was on Talking Rock Creek, about 10 miles from where I live at over here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I
Wow.
live down. I live about 8 miles from Calhoun, and actually,
Okay.
have you ever heard of Carter's Lake?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Talking Rock
Yeah.
Creek.
My oldest son don't live far from there. He lives up there in Ranger.
Okay, Talking Rock Creek actually runs into Carter's Lake into the small lake area, and
Hmm.
back at that time we had went over to what they call a ball play community, about probably about 15 miles from Carter's, and we'd put in the creek over there, put the raft in, and was floating down. And we'd been on the creek. We spent I think the first night, and got up that next morning. We went across, went down by oh Lord, Cedar Bluffs, what they call Cedar Bluffs, and there's a little waterfall there at Cedar Bluffs, about 4 or 5 foot high, and we went across it and went on down about 30, 40 yards, and there's a creek, little skewer corn that spills into Talking Rock, and
Hmm.
there's like a triangle shaped sandbar that comes out there, and this thing was out right out on the end of that sandbar, and like I said, it was crouched down like a man crouched down, and
Hmm.
had its uh, hands down in the water, and when it raised up, I could. That's the first thing I saw was the hands, and
Wow.
and it hit me. Man, this ain't no damn bear. No,
Yeah.
part of the language. You know,
Yeah.
you ain't got a bear nowhere, and I've hunted bear all my
No.
life in this part of the country, and you ain't got a
Yeah.
bear nowhere. You got a set of hands like a man's got.
Right. And that's what occurred to me about my experience is it couldn't have been no bear because there ain't no way a bear could grab a hold of a stick with his hands and swat the side of a tree with a stick.
That's right.
I
that
mean, I
leaves
know
two
there's
things.
there's hogs in there, there's wild hogs in there, there's bears in there, there's deer in there, and there's raccoons, whatever, bobcats and such. But there ain't nothing in there that sounds like what I heard. I mean, they
Now,
ain't.
do you know anybody personally that's had any encounters or seen anything, heard anything out of the ordinary in that area, or
No, 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 not really. No, I mean, no, none to speak of. I mean, I talked with um, a a game warden that's part of the group too, um, and I talked to him for quite a while on Messenger one night. I think after me and Ricky talked on Messenger, and I think his last name is Manning. I can't remember what his first name is, but he's a game warden up in this area, Lumpkin County, and all the surrounding WMAs. And he's had some experiences that he was telling me about when we were back and forth on Messenger. You might want to look him up. I forgot what his first name is though, but it was real interesting what he said. I think he had heard some tree smacks, and he also had an encounter where he had a very bad smell, and
Right,
it was on the Chattahoochee National Forest.
right. And
But
Blake and we've encountered the smell. We've encountered having
yeah,
rocks thrown at us, sticks
wow,
thrown at us, trees pushed over, tree limbs broke. Not 20 yards from us, just all
huh,
kind of crazy stuff. So yeah, these things can. What it is to me, I think when you get in it, when you go into the woods, you're in their home. You're not in yours
yeah,
anymore. you're in their
Right.
element. And those
Yep.
things actually know when you come into the woods. And if they don't want you into the woods, and evidently the way that one done that night, he was just letting you know that he was there.
That's the
If he had,
impression I got. Yeah.
right, if he had wanted you out of there, you'd have encountered
Yeah.
more than you'd have encountered more than just a straight knocks and whoops. Believe me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, with all this being said, since I know that you're not saying that you had an encounter with Bigfoot. I know that you're just saying that you're just explaining what out of the ordinary you had happen.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
your opinion on it now? I mean, do you more toward the side that that's possibly what it was, or?
I mean, I have to say that that's possibly what it was, because I can't think of anything else it could be.
Well, the only other thing that it could have been was a human. I mean, and a human doesn't have that vocal range. I mean,
Right. It was when you heard it, you could tell it was deep. It was a deep wolf sound. Yeah, it was gut, something deep from the gut. It wasn't high pitched. It was a real deep wolf sound. And I wished I could repeat it, but that's the closest I can come.
But
it was loud enough and close enough to where, it sounded loud enough so we could both hear it.
Well, how far do you think this thing was actually from y'all?
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. When you're in the woods like that, and we sitting by the campfire, and it's crackling and everything, and really couldn't tell. I really wouldn't know how to judge how far away it was. I just know it was close enough for us to hear, very plainly.
Right.
Very, very plain. I wish he could have been on here too. Maybe you can get a hold of him. So he can give you, maybe you can have a different night to where, you can interview him, and you'll see how close our stories is. That's what I tell everybody. If you don't believe me, ask Waylon. He'll tell you the exact same thing I'm telling you. When two people hear the same thing, there's got to be some credibility in it.
Yeah, and that's what I was just about to say. I mean, when you have two people that are there together and their stories match, just it makes it more credible. I mean,
right.
We got a question here from Pred and Squatching, and I'd like to say hi to Mr. Burry. How long was the grunt that you heard? How long
it was just real? It was just real quick, like it was like whoa, about like that.
So half a second to a second.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It wasn't no more than about a second or maybe 2 seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
Blake and I hunted. Go ahead, Blake. Blake and I, just to explain to you about the area over in there. Blake and I hunt a place over on Blue Ridge, WMA. I'm sure you're familiar with that area over in there. There's no place over there called Hickory Flat Cemetery, and it's right off the Appalachian Trail. You're about a half mile, maybe a mile walk from the cemetery down to the trail, and that's where Blake and I.
You're 14 miles off Main Road. I mean, you're in the middle on top of WMA. Yeah. Like, you can't really get much more back in there.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Now, did you have any, did you guys feel like y'all were being watched at all, or any? I mean, I know it's startling. I mean, I know senses, and your mind kind of starts wandering and everything when you hear something like that and you can't explain. But any type of feelings being watched or anything?
Well, not to say so. I mean, not really. It gave us the creeps, Of course, I told you we slept with our rifles just in case. I never heard nothing like it. I really ain't. And but as far as being watched, not really. I mean, I don't know if whatever it was, if it sit there and watched the camp all night, or or if it just moved on after it. I don't know. We never heard it. That's
Look,
what's so weird. Whatever it was very quiet. The only sound that we heard at all was the smack of the trees.
Well, that's one thing that these creatures are very well known for is how quietly they can, for their
Yeah,
size, how quietly they can move through the woods. Uh,
yeah,
it's unreal. And
yeah, no,
Blake and I've said this on numerous occasions. Uh, we've actually been out in areas where uh, we haven't seen anything, but we get this you get this feeling, and when you get it, you get this feeling,
yeah.
that you're actually being watched.
Being
And
what?
there's numerous times that we've been out and actually not encounter anything. No whoops, no screams, no vocals, no nothing. But
Yeah.
you know, just by
You just got
having
the
that,
feeling something was watching you.
yeah, you know
Yeah.
that there's something there. And there's no telling how many people or how many times people go into the woods and walk right by these things, maybe 20 yards
Mhm.
from them, and never know that they're there.
Right. Yeah.
that's what I was about to say. I mean, it could have sat there 40 yards from y'all's camp, and you would have never even known it was there if it didn't want you to
Mhm.
know it was there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like he said, I think it was just whatever it was, just wanted us to know it was there.
I think mostly, that's basically what happened to you.
Yeah. Because we didn't, like, the next morning we got up and before daylight hit our ground blinds, and the rest of the day we didn't see another hunter at all that whole day. There wasn't nobody in them woods
Well, now
back there.
you
Nobody
said
back there but us.
you said that it was that everything had just gotten real silent with you. That's
Yeah.
another key to that. Another factor that adds into me believing this was actually a Sasquatch is the fact that when these creatures are in that area, uh,
Yeah.
everything, crickets, uh, you know, bugs, whatever,
Sound at
squirrels,
all.
everything just drowned out. They just go silent.
Huh.
Well, nature, it's kind of like when, nature kind of knows, I don't want to say a predator, but nature knows when they're a predator in the area. And that's kind of what nature acts like when
Mhm.
you have one in the area most of the time. Or that's, that we hear that a lot, and we've encountered that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, then let me ask you something else, Nathan. In the area up there, have you ever found any like deer carcasses or anything like that?
No, no, and it's weird too because last year, like I was saying, I got to hunt a pretty good bit because the job I had gave me a lot of time off, and I didn't hardly see any deer sign at all. I saw one deer the whole time, and I hunted that place a lot last year. It was just like, just I don't know, no deer, no, I didn't see any does at all. And I think it was that same year, or it might have been 2018 when we first hunted there with another cousin of ours. Um, let's see, no, it would have been the turkey season of 2018. That's what it was. It was March of 2018. Um, me and Waylon was hunting in there, turkey hunting in there, and we seen some turkeys, but this time not no turkey signs, no deer signs. There toward the end of the rut, I found a rub tree, and then I wound up actually shooting at a buck, missing it. But yeah, I mean, it was weird. The first time we hunted in there, it was deer signs everywhere, droppings you'd find, But this, I don't know. It's like everything in there is just spooked or something. I don't know.
Now, are they any water source or anything in the area? Any creeks, any lakes,
Yeah, there's creeks
ponds?
in there. Yeah, they ain't no ponds or nothing, but there's creeks runs through there. Yeah. And there's a lot of that dirt road, their gravel road that's more like a washout dirt road. Any tracks would be very visible in that road bed. So when I go back, and I'll be going in a few weeks, I'm gonna be looking at that road bed.
Yeah, I was about to say, just start looking, start paying
I'm
attention
gonna
to
start
things you
looking.
don't
Yeah.
normally pay attention to.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you could have signs right in front of your face and, you know, you never knew to look for them or what to look for. Just start looking,
Yeah.
and you might be surprised what you'll find.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna keep my eye out. Definitely.
Hey, buddy, once you know that something like this is in an area, it kind of makes you, whether you realize you're doing it or not, you're still looking. You're
You're
still
still
watching.
looking.
Your senses is overwhelmed at
Right. Yeah.
what
I
happened.
guarantee you, I'm looking constantly in there for what made that noise. I want to see it.
Well, I'm
I
gonna tell
would
you,
love to see it.
I don't know whether you whether you want to see it or not.
I, I might want to, as long as I got something in my hand to defend myself, I wouldn't mind seeing it.
Well,
I wouldn't want to be standing there with a bow and arrow in my hand, I don't think.
no, that to me just wouldn't be enough to defend the man's self with.
No.
Well,
Not
that's
a thing.
something a lot of people don't realize, though, that actually can turn an encounter into a bad encounter is actually having something they feel threatened by.
Right, yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot of people say that, I want to have a gun, blah, 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 blah. It could
Well, that
turn a
would
little
only
worse
be,
than if you didn't. I mean,
yeah. That would only be if it come after me. Now, if it's minding its own business or whatever, and I'm watching it, and it's, I don't care if it's watching me or what, but if I can got my eye on it and it just seems like it's shy or something and just wants to wander off or even wave or whatever it wants to do, I mean, I ain't gonna come up and shake his hand, but I definitely like to see it.
I actually saw a family back in 2011. Been doing it ever since 2011. And me personally, a lot of people talk about aggressive encounters and everything. I mean, me and
Yeah.
Ricky's had situations that you definitely you don't want to be around. I mean, your senses take over, and it's either fight or flight type situations. But
Right.
I mean, I've never had an aggressive encounter that I took aggressive. I mean, it could have been aggressive, and I just took it as a different way. But
Yeah.
Well, my feelings is on it. If you go into an area and say it like you did, Nathan, and one of these creatures lets you know that it's in that area, a lot of times, if they don't have young around, you really don't
you're
have
good.
anything to worry about. But
Right.
now,
Yeah.
if you encounter one of these things and they start throwing rocks at you, start throwing sticks at you, start trying to
Take the
bluff
time.
charge you, that buddy is a time to back out and leave. I mean, if you encounter anything like that, that's my best advice. Back out the area and leave, because
Exactly.
we really don't know enough. We know a little about these creatures, but we really don't know enough to what actually pushes them to their breaking point to cause them to
Right.
be.
I mean, it might be just like a mama bear, if it had a baby with it, it'd probably be just as protective, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, we talked to people that's encountered them with young, uh, uh, I guess you'd call them children or whatever with them, and they say they can be very very aggressive. In that case, just like anything else.
Well,
Right.
I mean, it's like
I've got a couple
mine
of dogs out here. I've got one dog out here. She's as sweet tempered as can be. But then you let her have a litter of pups, and that hood's will eat you up. You go down there around that dog house.
Yeah,
just
that's
like
a
this
different
creature.
story.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
like my encounter. Yes, a juvenile was involved, but I wasn't close enough to them to, I guess, have a aggressive encounter. Once they realized we were there,
Wow.
they pretty much just disappeared. They stepped into
Just
the wood line
moved on.
and, never heard, never seen. It's just like they were never there.
Yours was here in Georgia too?
It was like
Your
Gallatin.
encounter? Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's something very common that we, just about, I'd say at least 80% of the people that we talk to a lot of your encounters happen around bodies of water.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
I know Blake and I had went down before he had his encounter in 2011. We were actually doing paranormal investigation down there at an old cemetery, rural cemetery. It's about 3 miles off the main road down there, out to where the cemetery is at. The old road that runs down in there actually dead ends at the cemetery, and now they've done a lot of wood cutting in there, clear cutting. But back then it was all forest all the way around, and you walk through the cemetery.
It's a wildlife management area as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You talking about Alatoona Wildlife Management Area? Yeah. I've been in there. Yeah.
Okay. Where we were at down there, you walk through the cemetery, go to the back of the cemetery, and walk down about 100 yards over there, and you actually come into a cove that comes in off the main body of the lake. And back at that time, these things were using across from where this cove was at. They were using that area all the way around to the cemetery. And we were actually down there. The first real encounter that we had with one of them, we'd had an encounter 2 or 3 weeks before this where one had screamed at us. Probably 4 or 5 different times that night down there. It kind of spooked us up a little. We left. Blake done a little research on the internet. We go back down there a few weeks later, and his dad is with us and a couple other guys. We walk out into the cemetery. We're standing out about probably 60 yards from the wood line out in the middle of the cemetery. And all of a sudden, we were up under this tree, and all of a sudden, rocks the size of basketballs comes through and the treetops and lands at our feet. Like 3 or 4 of them does. Great. I look around, everybody's done run off and left me. They're all from down at the end of the cemetery. I run down there where they're at, and I asked his dad, John, I said, Dad, blame Johnny. I said, where'd y'all boys go? Johnny says, hell, man, that thing's throwing rocks big as a basketball at us. At first, I was kicking around.
Yeah, great.
We were back down there then a couple of weeks after that, and I just had a heart attack right before this, a couple of months before this, and Blake and Johnny and I had walked around the through the cemetery, all the way around the cove over to where Blake had his sighting at, and we were standing there talking, and right before we started to leave,
this was before my sighting.
Yeah, this was before the sighting, but Blake told me to give a yell, Rick. So I give a yell, and just as my yell ended, you can ask Blake, tell him what happened.
One of the craziest things I've ever heard in my life. I've always, this is when I first got into all this. I was one of those people, that didn't necessarily discredit them, but kind of like you, didn't think they were around in the area here. I've heard stories of stuff in like Blue Ridge and stuff like that, but never really thought about it. And so when all this started happening, I'd heard about them mimicking things, like sounding like other animals and just whatnot. Well, Ricky howls, and no sooner than Ricky's howl stopped. Like, I don't even think Ricky's howl had stopped. It sounded like somebody pushed a replay button and sounded just like Ricky. And to remind you, this is wintertime. We're in this cove, and I mean, the water's low. They're only like maybe, 60, 70 yards of water in between us and the other side, the bank on the other side. And this thing is just in the wood line. Wow. So you can tell him what my dad did.
All right, these two. Now, like I said, I'd had a heart attack a couple months before this. When this thing yelled out,
well,
I mean, you could tell it was a lot deeper.
Yeah, I was about to say, you could tell it wasn't another human, like just the vocal range of it.
It was a lot deeper. But when this thing yelled out, Blake and Johnny hauled ass. They left out. They run all the way back to the truck. Well, about 4 or 5 minutes later, I get over to the truck. They're sitting in the truck with the truck doors locked. Johnny finally rolls the window down and looks at me with this confounded expression.
This was the first time my dad had heard a howl.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we'd been telling my dad about these howls that we were hearing down there and everything. And of course, every time we'd take him down there, we never have anything happen like that. I mean, yeah, he had those rocks thrown that one night, but that was the only thing that my dad had ever had happen down there. So this was the first time he'd actually ever heard the howl.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, when I get back over to the truck, they're sitting in the truck with the truck doors locked. I'm sitting there, or standing there beside the truck, heaving, trying to catch my breath. Johnny rolls the window down, looks down at me, says, "Hell, man, I didn't have to outrun you. All I had to do is outrun Sasquatch."
Look, Ricky is living proof that they don't just attack people.
Yeah.
Poor Ricky's got left behind a few times.
Yeah, quite a few.
If they wanted to get him, they could have got him, couldn't they?
Oh, yeah.
Anytime. But now, any advice, my best advice to give anybody that goes into the woods where one of these creatures are at, if you encounter one and they start throwing rocks at you, start throwing sticks at you, start bluff charging you, grunting real loud at you, whatever, just don't stick around. Just back out of the area and let them have it, because they don't want you. There's something going on. They've either got little ones, or maybe they've got a fresh kill or whatever on the ground, and they just don't want you in the area.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's better, just to back out and not confront them.
Since we got a little time left, Ricky, you want to tell him the story about us back in the cove in the boat?
Oh, Lord. We went down there a couple of months after all this happened, maybe 2 or 3 months after it all happened. We took Johnny's boat down there, and we'd put in down at, down there next to the dam, wasn't it? No one next to the dam. It was down there at, I can't think of the name of the place, the boat dock. But anyway, put it where... Huh?
I don't remember what boat ramp we put in at.
I don't remember either. But anyway, we'd come around the lake and come over there, and we come in that main cove where we'd been having all this activity at. Mm-hmm. We're sitting about 20 foot off the bank. All of a sudden, Blake's in the back of the boat. Blake yells out with a big yell, and no sooner than Blake yells out, this thing is right maybe a good 30 yards from us up on the hill, right in the edge of the wow. This sucker screams out, dude. I mean, it shook the boat. It was so loud. And Blake hollers, "Where you going, Ricky?" I said, "Hell, anywhere but here."
I turn around and Ricky's about to jump out of the damn boat.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been scared up a little by these creatures.
Wow. Yeah.
But it's wild, that the type of encounters you have, whether these things want to be, where they want to be friendly, you might run into one and just have a mundane encounter and one of them not bother you at all, and then again you might go in the woods and have an encounter with one of them to where they're throwing stuff at you or maybe trying to kill you. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, I hope never like that. I think it'd be interesting to see, one. I think it would anyway.
Well, I'll tell you, it's.
Then I could prove it to myself. That's, I wasn't just hearing.
It's a life-changing event. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I know just hearing something like what my experience was, just hearing it.
It opens your mind to things a little bit. I mean, it makes you question a little bit.
Yeah.
It actually makes you question what is actually out there in the forest running around with you is what it makes you question.
Yeah.
The government will tell you, most government agencies will tell you straight up, oh, these things don't exist. That's just figments of people's imagination. Just shatters or whatever, I am here to tell you, it's not a figment of your imagination. When you encounter one of these things, when you see it, with your own eyes and you see what they are and the body
Yeah.
mass these things have on them, dude,
The
it was
one that you seen, how big was the one that you seen there at Talking Rock?
the one
How
I
big
saw.
was it?
The one I saw
How
at
tall
Talking
was it?
Rock, it was probably a juvenile. I'd say it, when
Mhm.
it stood fully erect, it was, I'm going to say 6.5 foot tall, weighed probably 300, 350 to 400 pounds.
Good grief.
It was side covered. It was covered in hair, all except the facial area. The facial area, down on the cheeks and all, was just like a gray, leathery looking color. Had the wide set brow ridge, and the conical point to its head. That's
Hmm.
basically what I got to make out of the creature.
Wow.
And it was something that you know I, I at the time I just know poor boy. I'd growed up here in Northwest Georgia, hunted all the mountains in this area,
Mhm.
hunted Tennessee, Alabama. I've encountered everything from black bear to you name it, big cats and everything
Mhm.
else in this area. But never
Well,
in my life would I.
and Ricky was also a taxidermist, so I mean,
Right, and I was
he's
taxidermist
dealt
for over
with
20 years.
everything they are in the woods here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen about every game species that can come out of these woods and mountains around here, and you know, until up until that time in '81, I had actually saw the Gimlin Patterson film from uh, 1976 or 1967,
67. Yeah.
right? And I had seen Patty on film, but
Mhm.
I didn't think we had anything like that in this area, not in North Georgia. That
No,
was
I
out
never did either.
that was out in the Pacific Northwest. Uh,
Right.
I figured if they were actually a creature like that, it was out there. But
That's what I thought too. That's where it would be.
I never thought nothing like that was out here until I had my first encounter with them. And I actually had an encounter back in '84 then up on Big Frog Mountain in Tennessee. I was up there one night. A couple of friends that I worked at Diamond Mills then, and a couple of boys that I worked with had told me they had been run off the mountain up there the year before uh, by some big hairy looking creature that come into camp with them. So when they told me that, I got the directions into where they were at up there, and I went back on Friday evening. I packed up and I had my blue tick hound Dixie with me. She was about 6 months old. Took her with me up there. Well, she loved chicken breast. We got up there at night. Uh, I built up a fire. I found where their old camp was at, remnants of their old camp. Even they had run off and left everything. The old Coleman stove, lanterns, they'd left everything up there. And
Wow.
found all that. And I set up camp right there where they had encountered whatever this was. And I had built up a fire and I'd cooked Dixie some chicken breast, had boiled them for her on the fire. Well, while I was boiling them, I kept hearing something off down in the woods from me, but nothing never was making any kind of racket, never was showing itself. So I got those cooked, gave to her. We laid down about 9:30 that night in the tent, and she was laying there. I was in my sleeping bag, and she was laying over to my right, stretched out against my sleeping bag. And all of a sudden, without hearing anything, all of a sudden she shoots straight up. Every hair on her stood or turned, just looked like turned inside out nearly. And she started growling real bad. And then she let out 2 or 3 barks and she shot out of the tent and down into the woods below me.
Hmm.
Well, by the time I got rolled over and got out of my sleeping bag and grabbed my handgun, I heard her just yelp real loud. And
Hmm.
I could get my flashlight and run off down into the woods about 20, 30 yards below camp. And I find her down there dead with her
Oh,
neck broke. And
good grief.
yeah, never did hear this thing, never did see what it was, whether it was Sasquatch, whether it was a bear that killed her or what, I don't know. But I can tell you this, she did not die from a swipe of a bear's paw because there wasn't any torn skin on her with a mark on her nowhere. Her neck was broke, and there was a tree down there that had fell probably about 8 or 10 inches round, had fell down across the trail, and whatever this thing was heavy enough when it stepped on that uh, fallen tree as it was leaving, it actually snapped that tree like snapping a twig.
Wow.
So that was an encounter I had in '84 up there on Big Frog Mountain, and
Filmer Bobcat said, "I was with a woman who ran at a Sasquatch that was whooping. He ran off. Probably thought she was crazy."
So she scared off the Sasquatch, huh?
and hey, that's just
that was pretty funny.
These people report sightings like that all the time, where they'll walk out on one on a trail or something, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think these creatures mean to harm people.
No. They
I
probably
really
just want to be left alone.
Well, if they did, I mean, yeah, I mean, you have stories from the missing 411 and all that, people just coming up missing and stuff. But
Yeah.
if they truly were out to just harm people, we would just have people come up missing and dead all the time. I mean,
yeah. I mean, especially hunters, because hunters only go into the woods, certain times a year, and that'd be perfect opportunity for them to hunt us if that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, fellas. Well, I'm gonna get off here. I gotta go to work in the morning.
All right, Nathan. Well, man, glad to have you on tonight. Anytime you come across any more evidence that you want to share, just holler
I'll
back at
definitely
me
let you know.
Messenger and let me know. We'll be glad to have you back on anytime.
All right. Hey, and try to get a hold of Waylon if you can.
Okay, I will.
If you can get him to answer, try send him a message through Messenger.
Okay.
If you, that might be the best way to get him. He may have changed his phone number or something, because I tried several times today and I just went straight to his voicemail.
Okay.
But if you can get him, I think it'd be interesting for y'all to hear his side of what happened too.
Yeah.
You'll see how they correspond.
All right. Nathan,
All right.
appreciate it, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Like I say, get any more evidence, just holler back at us.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you for having
very
me.
much.
All right. So
All right, Blake, you want to close her out?
Thank everyone for watching, and as always, guys, if you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button, bell notification, like, and a comment. And I hope everyone stays safe in this crazy world. Got a lot going on, and God bless everyone.
All right, everybody, like Blake said, please stay safe out there. Take precautions against the COVID that's spreading rampant again. Personally, I've lost 4 family members in the past, since January. So due to this illness. So please, folks, take it seriously. Don't.
Just one thing I want to say is I'm getting over it myself right now. I don't really want to speak on it because I've still got a couple more days. But for some people, you just need to be safe because you don't know how it's going to affect you.
Right. I had a brother-in-law back in January, folks, that he had actually, they said that he had actually gotten over the worst part of it. He was scheduled to go home the next day when the doctors talked to him. During the night, he took a relapse, and by 2 o'clock in the morning, he was dead. So, treat this as something that is really, really out there, and don't dismiss it as it being a bug, because it's not just a regular type of bug.
I really know this ain't the place to talk about it, but it's one of those things. I think majority of your population is going to be fine, but the scary part about the virus is you just don't know. So don't take it for granted.
That's it, buddy. All right, everybody. I want to thank everybody for watching tonight. Again, join us next week on another episode of Northwest Georgia Cryptics. We'll see what we can come up with then. Good night, and God bless.